Andre Fatih, Data and ML Specialist at Google Cloud. And I'm excited to be joined by Derek James, Director of AI and ML at Slalom, and Mike Quick, VP of Research and Development at Hologic. We're here to discuss an AI solution we developed in partnership with Hologic to further their mission to provide accessible healthcare for women across the globe and set the bar for innovation in their industry. Specifically, we will focus um, on how we work together to develop a solution, and we'll walk you through the steps that turned AI models into reality with real business impact. Ultimately, making cervical cancer screening faster, more efficient, and more readily available around the world. So let's get started. Mike, thanks for joining us today. Could you provide a brief background of how Logic need for advanced technology in AI to reach your goals?
Sure. Thanks, Andre. So at Hologic, we've been involved in cervical cancer screening and new technologies for the past 30 years. And we're really proud of the work that we've done in partnering together with clinical laboratories and physicians, really being able to have an impact in the lives of women around the globe. The technologies that we've developed have been able to reduce cervical cancer in many places, both in the US, in Europe, and in other parts of developing countries. However, there's still more work for us to do. And we're excited to be able to join in the goal of eradicating cervical cancer in the future. One of the key areas that we need to address, though, is the fact that there are not enough cytotechnologists or pathologists, the medical professionals that diagnose cervical cancer. And that's really where we're looking to artificial intelligence as a way to be able to leverage that technology to be able to bring new solutions and new technologies to have an impact on cervical cancer around the world.
This seems like a tough, multifaceted problem to solve, Mike. On one hand, it's deeply specialized medical diagnostics dealing with human lives. And on another hand, it's a sheer technology scale and cutting edge deep learning techniques requiring processing of image files.
That's absolutely right, Andre. In fact, when we look at the data that we have to analyze for this solving this problem, it's a real challenge. The amount of data that's created just from a single patient can be on the order of magnitude of 100 gigabytes for just a single slide. And the reason behind that is we're actually doing volumetric scanning. Instead of just looking at a single slide that contains cellular material, we're looking at the full volume and scanning multiple planes of images in order to be able to correctly identify cervical cancer and its precursor lesions. So there's a real challenge from the technology standpoint. In addition, on the healthcare side, we're really seeing that cervical cancer is a disease that progresses and regresses over time. Patients may have precursor lesions that their own immune system is able to fight that off. And so it makes it really difficult to be able to determine what is truth. And Derek will be able to share a little bit more about that and how we address that problem.
Thanks for the background, Mike. Now to Derek. As part of the Slalom solution team, can you walk us through some of the challenges you had to overcome and techniques used to turn this idea into reality?
Happy to. This was a rare opportunity for us, and we were very excited on our side because it's pretty rare that you get to use these techniques in machine learning that have developed over time to really make a difference in people's lives. So we were happy to dig into it. It came down to really two sets of challenges that we're facing that Mike laid out. The first was around the methodology itself. So when you've got labelers of data that are inconsistent or sometimes incorrect with a disease that can change over time, how do you define truth? If a digital cytologist finds that there is, HSIL present in a image, but 3 months later the lady has fought it off, does that mean he's incorrect or that they were incorrect? Obviously not. So as you remember, Mike, we spent a lot of time thinking about and defining what is truth and how do we deal with the fact that we have all of these different labelers that are sometimes in disagreement with each other. Because at the end of the day, what we need to teach the machine to do is replicate the behavior that we want to be automated. And we got to make sure that's the right behavior. So it took a lot of really deep conversations with the client, Mike and his team, to understand what's the right way to approach it. The second, which Mike alluded to, was the technical challenge. As Mike stated, these are high resolution images, 100,000 pixel by 100,000 pixel. The underlying structure of the data that we get is actually what's called a TIFF file. So this is a highly specialized image file, which is not actually one image, but the several hundred JPEGs all compressed into a file together. So you're looking at a file that's somewhere between 500 megabytes and 5 gigabytes uncompressed, which means that when you compressed, so that when you uncompress it, you're actually dealing with 20 gigabytes plus at table stakes. Now, if you think about this 20 gigabyte image that needs to be stitched together in a world where we're going to provide, along with Hologic and Google, this valuable service for women, the question that comes up is, how do we engineer a system that takes this image that's created from the lab, decompresses it quickly, accurately makes the prediction, and then returns it back within seconds so that we have a good user experience involved? That involved some pretty heavy and significant computer engineering. You know, 20 years from now, if somebody's trying to do something like this, they'll look at the concept of a 20 gig image being thrown around and they'll say, what's the big deal? But here in 2022, there's not many GPUs that can handle it. There's not many GPUs where you can put that entire array into memory as you would need to for your traditional neural network techniques. So that forced us to have to get pretty creative in how we broke up this work, distributed it, and stitched it back together. That was part of what Google's actually really helpful with, is giving us the flexibility and the power that we needed in order to accomplish that. What we ended up doing, along with that computer engineering, was to apply a technique that was actually being developed in natural language processing, and we used that for this computer vision problem. So we ended up deploying a technique involved here that was about 8 months early before it was even submitted at the NIPT conference, which is the Conference on Neural Information Processing. The result was pretty good sensitivity and pretty good accuracy all around, which led us to believe that there's a real possibility of helping to save women's lives in the future.
Thank you, Derek. And thank you for joining this session. We're just getting started on our work together, and we can't wait to see where this goes next.